Hey y'all. I know it's been a while. I know y'all listening to my voice and you like, she don't sound the same. Um, Excuse my hair, child. I'm laying on the couch. Y'all, I have not been feeling well the last couple of days. So I had to take a couple of days off. So y'all just gotta excuse me. However, I'm back. And as always, I'm here to give y'all some information. So I don't know what day we left off on. It doesn't matter because y'all know I'm coming back every time until we get through all this information that I already pre-planned out. But anyway, so y'all, before I get started good, I'm going to go ahead and apologize up front if I start coughing, hacking, whatever it may be. This is real life and you get what you get. At least I'm up and I'm got the information to give to y'all. All right, so one of the things that I wanted to come to y'all to talk about is shadow work. So remember I told y'all we're doing 30 days of just kind of getting to know yourself. And I know one of the things I hear being tossed around a lot is shadow work. And so a lot of people be like, ugh. I don't even know if I really want to bring it that way, but I will. So what I want to do is I want to kind of take the scary out of a lot of the terminology that you guys are hearing, right? So people are doing a lot of spiritual work, and it's great, it's amazing. And then there's a lot of people who are very skeptical of starting their spiritual journey because they come usually from a Christian background and they feel that you know, everything that's being said out here is the work of the devil. And and I'm just like, oh, if that's your belief, then that's your belief. But what I'm here to do is to teach and make things plain. If you have, like I always tell y'all, if y'all have any questions, you got anything in particular you want to talk about, the comments is where it's at. Like, drop some information down in the comments, get with me, let me know, ask your questions, and I'm going to be here for you to make it as simple as possible. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is shadow work, because people say it a lot and they're like, oh, you got to get in touch with your shadow side, and you have to, you know, I don't know. I don't even know at this point. All I know is when I hear it and I hear people talking about it, they make it seem like it's so scary and you got to be uber cautious because it's the bad part of you. Ciao, bye. That's what happens every time I laugh. I'm sorry, y'all, but y'all get used to it. So y'all already know I came with my handy dandy notebook. Look, y'all. So I got some good notes going on. Let's see where we're gonna start at though. So sorry, y'all, I was eating garlic cloves. They're so delicious. They're pickled. They're not regular. I digress, because I told y'all I go all the way around. So what I've been doing is I've been giving you guys some, and when I look off, I'm usually just thinking. I'm just processing thoughts and stuff. Let me get up and be a little bit more professional. But you get what you get at this point, y'all. So anyway, I told you guys, like, when I get started, what I want to do is bring to you usually the definitions and the etymology, because I want you to have like the explicit information. And then I'll go through and I might bring in tie together some of your previous knowledge, or, you know, whatever else to kind of make some inferences. So, you know, I say listen to the whole thing in its entirety. What I will start doing is pulling in some of the other roadblocks, some of the other blocks that I've gone ahead through and delivered to you previously, in order for us to make some connections. So in terms of shadow work, so let me just go through the definitions, what I found. So Actually, it was a lot, y'all. It was a lot. The first piece that you need to understand about shadow work. How about I'm gonna just do the definition first, okay? So it says that I should have got the little thing. Hold on, y'all. Let me get the stand. All right, y'all. I'm back. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I got a little hands free. I don't know. I guess that's just the camera. Anyway, so shadow work. So as I was looking at the definitions, right? One piece of it, it says that it's an analytical psychology, right? Which means analytical meaning logical or reasoning. And in psychology, it's the study of the mind and behavior. So shadow work is a way to look at your mental work, right? Or your mind and your behavior through an analytical sense, right? Does that make sense? So we're going to come back to that because I think after I start explaining some stuff, that'll make more sense to everybody and for me. Because, you know, I like to break stuff down, make it simple. And if it ain't simple, if it ain't clear, it's not done. You get me? All right. So it says shadow work, the definition, it says the unconscious aspect of the personality that the conscious ego does not identify in itself, or the entirety of the unconscious, that is everything of which a person is not fully conscious. That might sound like a whole bunch of hoopla to you, right? So remember in one of the previous videos, I talked about the mind, and I told you guys that the mind is broken down into 3 parts. The conscious mind, this is the part that deals with the analytical piece. So the part that you can literally go through based on rationale and explain things to yourself or break things down and make things uncomplicated through just basic logic. Then you have your unconscious. The unconscious mind is the collector, right? This is where everything is housed. And then you have the subconscious, and then your subconscious is your programmer. So this is how you process through and work through things based off of the way that you were raised. All right, so you have these 3 areas. When you deal with shadow work, the shadow work deals with the unconscious. So that's your collector. That's everything. Your collector is everything that you are able to see, to deal with, to whether you understand the information or not. It's every photo, everything that your mind can capture, whether you realize that it's captured that or not. This is also that piece that deals with your sleep, deal with your dreams. And then your dreams are communicating through symbols, because these are the photos or the images that you've seen every day throughout your whole life. Every single thing, whether you can really remember it or you don't remember it. So remember that that's what you remember. The unconscious mind is everything that you can and cannot remember. It is a collector of information. Got it? So this area, this unconscious mind, is what the shadow work dives into. So your shadow work, by definition, right, it says it's the unconscious aspect of the personality that the conscious ego does not identify in itself. So it's saying that your logical mind has, your logical mind pretty much is your defender, right? So your logical mind is sitting there saying, or your conscious mind is sitting there saying, oh, to slap this girl sitting beside you is wrong, even though you really, in your mind's eye, can see yourself slapping the taste out of the girl sitting right beside you, right? So you yourself, right, although in your mind's eye you may have slapped her, but in reality you did not slap her, your unconscious mind takes both the unslapped and the slapped version and collects it all as data, because whether it happened or not does not make any sense to your unconscious mind. It collects everything. So if you saw yourself, right, slapping her, it actually happened in your unconscious mind. But your conscious mind said, no, that's not right. You don't put your hand on other people. You know, you are respectful to people, X, Y, and Z. So you yourself create a version of you, right? Characteristics, a personality who responds to social norms. So this individual that you create, who you give out to the world as your, oh, I know what that is, y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all in a minute. Stay tuned. But this person who you give out to yourself as your social norms, the what's to be expected, even though you're consciously you wouldn't slap somebody, unconsciously there's that piece of you who's always ready to slap the taste out of somebody. So why would you want to slap the taste out of somebody? That is where you do the shadow work to figure out that's where this idea of shadow work comes from to figure out why you would not slap this person or why you keep thinking about slapping this person. If that don't make sense to y'all, stay tuned. All right, so I don't know why I got so loud there, y'all. Anyway, so shadow work, ultimately, right? The way that I look at it, y'all, I got like 3 ways I wanted to come at this thing, so y'all got to give me some time to unpack it, because I want to do it just right, just a little, you know, razzle dazzle. Haven't been razzling and dazzling lately, so. All right, so shadow work. Typically when people hear shadow work, they think that it's something devilish, or like I said before, something where something is really hiding, and it kind of is, right? It's ultimately it can be like an aspect of yourself that is being uncovered. The work to uncover it is what is called shadow work. So I think I'm gonna start here. So I put down different types. No, let me finish explaining it. Let's finish, because I don't feel like I finished explaining it. So that's the gist of shadow work, y'all. It's just uncovering these different layers of your mind. So when I looked up the word shadow, because we're gonna go back, because I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna build on this thing. When I looked up the word shadow, shadow says it's the a dark figure cast upon a surface by a body intercepting the rays from a source of light. Y'all might be like, girl, don't nobody know what it is. Then it said it's partial darkness or obscurity within a part of space from which rays from a source of light are cut off by an intercepted oblique body, or a small degree or a portion or a trace. All right, so this is the easy way I can explain it. You have light, ultimately, that is shining. So imagine how y'all see me. It's a little light. It's bright, right? So you have light that is shining. Can y'all really see my hand? Yeah, you can. All right, the light that is shining on my hand is what you see as a figure, right? So this is the figure. This is you. The light is the awareness of something. It doesn't matter what it is. So it could be the awareness of yourself, the awareness of love, the awareness of a relationship, the awareness of ... You can place it with whatever you want to put it in, right? So the light is the awareness of something. The figure is you. The shadow, which you can see is casting a shadow on me, right? The shadow is the absence of the light, right? Got it? Got it. Great. So, and the very basics of it, that is all that it is. A shadow is the absence of the light due to a figure, or due to, what was this one? What did it say? It says the dark figure cast upon a surface. So my hand, the shadow that's hitting my face, is the cast on the surface. The surface would be my face, right? the point that is being illuminesced is the hand, but the light itself is the ... whatever you want to make it. So I named out a couple different things because your light can change. And when I say your light can change, the light is as far as like a aspect of yourself, right? Or an aspect of an attribute. So when you're dealing with love, right? Love is this bright light shining onto a person, but there's some darkness here that's going to be representative that we need to kind of clear out for us to fully embrace the total light of what love can be. So that darkness could be the mistreatment that you may have received, or the absence of love from particular people. Whatever it is, it creates a shadow effect. And that shadow effect is 9 times out of 10 what we don't really want to focus on. And so that's why they kind of call it shadow work. Shadow work is the unfocused area of what is being addressed. So, sorry. So for a basic understanding, they called it light source. So the source, again, that source of light could be whatever area, subject area you want to make it. Then you have the self, which was the hand, right? So that's you within that light. And then you have the darkness, the shadow that's being cast off of it, which is the hidden. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, y'all, write down below in the comments. I need clarity on X, Y, and Z so I can help y'all. But let me put my notebook down for a minute, because I'm about to make it a lot more intense real quick. Okay, y'all. So let's do it this way. I'm gonna give y'all 2 or 3 examples. I'm not sure just yet. So some of you may know, if you're women, because I mainly talk to women. I love the fellas, don't get me wrong, but my audience is always to women first, because that's who I teach. That's who I'm called to, women and children, and then men. I'm sorry, y'all, again. That's why I ain't been on here, because I ain't been able to talk. So let's start with the basics. Children, when you talk about shadowing, right? Let's talk about art. When you are creating a work of art, I was going to draw, let's do this. When you're creating a work of art, right? And you're starting to draw some things, right? We're going to say this is the face. Well, just because this is the face, if I just sit here and I drew an eye, right? That don't really look like a whole lot of nothing. But if I start to, what they say, shadow in some of these areas, right, within the eye, then it starts to make a little bit more detail, right? You're able to see just a little bit more. But then they have, when you're shadowing in things, right, you have some areas where you're going to go in a little bit darker than others. And this is just so you can see the indentation from the object, or the amount of space from one object to the next. Like my eyes, for example. If someone was drawing my eyes, you would shadow in around this dark area, around this, the corner of the eye, in order for it to stick out a little bit more. Or maybe you would shadow in, right, under the neck, under the chin. Same thing with makeup, right? So with makeup, same thing happens. Whatever you want to make disappear the most, you're going to make it a little bit darker. So if I wanted to go through, put makeup on, I would put darker tones around the bottom here to get rid of, you know, some of this. All right. You will put darker tones. You usually see girls, they put it on their nose to make their nose a little bit more pointed. But then you also do more highlights. And when you do this, you're bringing more attention to specific areas. The same thing happens when you talk about shadowing for drawings, right? And I'm trying to pull this all together for y'all. So there's a thing called the autonomy of a shadow. The autonomy of a shadow goes beyond the 3 basic parts that I just explained out to you earlier, where it's just the light, the object, and then the shadow. The autonomy of a shadow actually gives you about 7 different pieces. So you have the highlight, you have the casting shadow, a half tone, reflective light, the shadow, the court shadow. There's actually several pieces. There's one I don't know what I wrote down, so I'm not even going to repeat it. But you'll see this more so, 1, in drawings. 2, you see that when people do artistry, when they do makeup, right? That's how they change people's facial structures sometimes. You also see this with spears and spears, like a circle, when they deal with science, right? And they do your squares and all that stuff, and they try to make stuff 1D to 2D to 3D, and they fill it in with specific shadows and highlights, and they change the way that the light bounces on certain things. So you could think of yourself as that particular object, whatever object you want to make it. If you want to say it's makeup, and you want to be like it's your face, that's the object. If you want to say it's a ball and you're drawing it, that's the object. But the way that the light is hitting on that object will change where the shadows are located, right? Or if you're putting on makeup, the way where you put your darker or your highlights on your face changes the shape the image that you see. The same thing happens with shadow work, right? Shadow work is that you have this particular idea, a light, which you could say, let's say relationships, right? And you cast this light onto you as a person with relationships. And maybe in your relationship, let's say your boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, or girlfriend-girlfriend, or your significant other, your life partner, that relationship that you have with that person is going to reflect some light onto you. There's going to be some things that you like, and there's going to be some things that you dislike. But what we do, typically, we see the stuff that we dislike about a person or the person that we're with, and we say, I hate this about you, this, and we poke at it. Versus understanding that there's a reason why you dislike these things, and going internally to do some self-diagnoses and self-inflections or self-reflections to figure out, why is it that I do not like X, Y, and Z about this person who I claim that I love and that I care about? The first is usually easier to say, I don't like this and you need to change this. The second takes some time and takes for you to be more accountable to yourself and your actions. And so, you know, that could go a full circle around a whole bunch of different things. Y'all don't come at me. Just understand I'm trying to show you something. If you hang in there with me, you'll get to the end with me and figure it out. So ultimately, if you are, again, with a significant other, when we're talking about this aspect of love, and you see something that you dislike about this person, if instead of you forcing yourself to say, I dislike X, Y, Z, and you need to change this or we're done, but if you take that and do that introspection, you'll start to try to figure out why you dislike it. And you may have to ask that question over and over and over. Usually they tell you to ask yourself why 6 times before you even get to something that's even slightly emotional, or that's going to pull to make a change. So if you say, oh, I dislike how you always leave your clothes on the floor. Well, why? Because that's dirty. Well, why? Because I was raised better than that. Well, why? And you keep asking yourself until you get down to the nitty gritty. And usually it's going to be, if you ask yourself at least 6 times and give yourself some real valid points, you'll usually get somewhere to at least that starter point. Outside of that, usually if you have not gotten to somewhere in your childhood, more than likely there's still some uncovering. Because remember, I told you the shadows, we talked about just those main 3 pieces. But what happens is when you change your light, or if you move the light around, or if you look at the different highlights of an area, you may just be catching a scope of the darkness, right? A scope of the shadow, but not the full entire shadow. You're not fully uncovering all of the issues that are there. So, I'm just looking through my notes, make sure I ain't skipped nothing out too much. So yeah, so like I said, the shadow itself, right? Usually it is behind, but there are different versions of the shadow. So I would suggest, because I'm not going to do all the work for you, for you to go and look up the anatomy of a shadow. And in there, they had a lot of different ones. They had some, like I told you, some balls, and how you would see the shadow from different angles. They gave about 7, like I said, 7 different versions of shadows, which is why usually when people make that general thing talking about shadow work, they'll say, well, I've healed from that. And I'm going to be talking about healing next, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But they'll say I healed from that, and a healing is not a one-time process, and we're going to talk about that. But shadow is also not a one area thing. What typically happens is that first initial aha moment that this is a trigger or this is an issue, and I've shed a little light on it, is just the cast of the shadow, is not the true shadow. And so you have to continuously dig and be cognizant, because remember we told you the shadow version is in the unconscious mind. So it is the collector of all information. So as you start to slowly dive into the unconscious mind, the conscious mind is still there, trying to provide you reason and rationale for your actions or responses. And at some point, you're not going to be able to have a rationale to any of it. You're just going to have a moment of acceptance. And it's not until you can hit that acceptance area can you truly find value in the uncovering of the greater uncovering of yourself. All right, so let me move on, because I think I explained that good. If I didn't, y'all let the girl know so I can come back and do it better. Because she coming back round, but she ain't on her A game just yet. But a couple things that I want to make sure that I touched on. So when we talk about shadow work, it can consist of, 1, a therapist. I would highly recommend that if you feel that you have a lot of triggers, a lot of issues, that you really want to do some deep work, I would highly recommend getting yourself a therapist. To me, and I can only speak for myself, I am not a doctor. I'm not giving you any legal advice. This is just commentary. Don't take this, what I say, eat the meat and spit out the fat. Okay, honey, because y'all ain't coming for me on none of it. So a therapist, for me, I feel as though you can get a therapist. You should get a therapist to work on the traumas of your past, because that's what they do. That's what they're there for, is to help you with healing the past. Now, I would recommend you also getting a coach or a mentor, because your coach, depending on what area or arena you're in, your coach and your mentor is to help your present day and where you want to be in the future. Okay? So for me, my ideas could be wrong. The therapist helps you where you are now and healing from your past. Whereas your coach or your mentor is going to help you where you are now and get into that future zone. So you really need a full team. Let me just put it like that. Like, I know I want to be professional and I want to keep it real and all this other stuff. You need a whole slew of people, because I'm sure you got multiple personalities. You probably got like a lot going on. I'm not here to what they say. I'm not here to give nobody no names for nothing, because I myself am not the doctor, okay? But what I do, I really want you to be mindful and cognizant of what can transpire. There can be, this is what I hear, I think I hear a lot of, is when people try to talk about doing shadow work and healing, they are like, oh, it can be dangerous. You gotta watch out. You gotta be careful. No, it's the triggers. And I don't think I mentioned it on here yet, but in my class, I talk about triggers. Triggers are anything that gives you an emotional pull. And so if you have not learned how to deal with your emotions, if you have not learned how to manage yourself and your actions, then and your emotions, you get what I'm saying, your feelings. Because remember, all of these things are similar, but they're different. If you have not learned to deal with past traumas a certain way, where you can not cause yourself to be more depressed or cause yourself more anxiety, then you need to kind of get some individuals who can help you process through the emotions that come with a lot of the turmoil that may come up. It may not come up for you, but it could. And so those things, you do want to be able to not sit in a certain place for a long time, right? To not sit in hurt and pain for a long time. So you want the right people in your space and on your team to help propel you to where it is you want to go. My thing, when I talk about therapy, this could be mental, right? Or it can also be physical therapy when you're talking about shadow work. What may happen is sometimes when you are uncovering a lot of pain, you deal with the physical pain of mental anxiety, right? And mental stress. You may also deal with spiritual issues. So if you don't have anyone who is a spiritual advisor, I would recommend that you find someone who you can talk to about those things, because it can bring up other issues for you, because all of it is a holistic. I talk and I deal holistically. All of it is a holistic piece. And so when I get into chakras, you guys will understand that a little bit more, how the spiritual and the physical combine and they work together. I recommend massages, right? If you beyond physical therapy, go to a masseuse, go to a chiropractor. All of these people are there for a reason, and they all have their own special benefit. I highly, highly, highly recommend journaling. Journaling to get through frustrations, to get through certain emotions. Start to question yourself why you're going through these emotions, where they come from, what were some of the underlying issues, how does these emotions bring physical ailments in your body, because you might find yourself being sick or feeling uneasy. So this is very important. Meditation, yoga, breath work, all of these things are things that you could put into your little box, right? Into your little box and use them as needed when you're going through this idea of uncovering some of your shadow work, your shadow side. When you go through this process, you will have more clarity of yourself. It will lead to a more authentic or original version of yourself. It'll help you become more genuine with who you are, and accepting yourself and then accepting other people. Self-acceptance, I feel, is very, very, very vital during the process of shadow work. I do want to clarify some stuff because, like I said, you'll have different people speak differently about different things. And I don't know, but this is where I'm different, right? Because I can't talk about nobody else because I don't pay no attention to them. But this is why I'm different. When I talk about doing your shadow work and having and clarifying this light and dark area, a lot of times when you hear people talk, and I've heard it, but I can't pinpoint who said what because it didn't make sense to me. When people talk or refer to dark and light, they usually talk about good and evil. Well, when you hear me talking about that, I ain't got nothing to do with no good and evil, no none of that. That's them over there. Go to them over there for that. What I will say is when I talk about dark and light from this one and here on out, I'm talking about shades, right? Shades and aspects of yourself. It's not so much good or evil or bad. It's an aspect of what is visible and what is currently unseen by you. I don't even want to say invisible because you just are not aware of it happening. You're not having the right amount of light shed in that particular area. So it's what's seen and what's less seen. Like I said, I really hate the fact that a lot of the shadow work, self-work, gets demonized. And for me, I want you to be able to reduce the amount of fear that you have with dealing with yourself. Most of the time, what I've learned is that it's pretty much that you have been, let me put this down. The easiest way for me to put it is that you have been taught not to deal with yourself, right? When you were a child, you would say, I don't like this person. They say, and your parents or somebody say, why don't you like them? You need to not do that. You need to not be like that. You need to like this, that, and the other person. You need to give these people a try. But your spirit already told you that not to fuck with them. Excuse my language. So don't. Now you're an adult and now you can stand on your own 2 feet because you're not a child anymore and you don't have to do as others have programmed you to do. So now you have to learn how to unprogram yourself and go through and figure out, who am I? And this idea of doing shadow work gives you that ability to figure out who you truly are and to see a more holistic version of yourself, to see what light has been shined on you as far as like different aspects, right? You take each aspect of yourself, whether it be, let's say, emotional, financial, physical, whatever it may be, spiritual. You go through each of these aspects and you do it over and over. It's never a stopping progress. It's never oh, I did it, now it's done. At every level, you reevaluate these things and you find a little bit more clarity and go a little bit more in depth, because you are actually able to peel back those onions, right? Which onions, when you peel it, sometimes it make you cry. The little juices get right? So you peel back these onions and you understand, okay, when I was 4 years old, my mama hit me and said X, Y, and Z. This is why I don't like when people talk to me rough, because I feel like they're going to get physical with me. And I don't want to get to a place where I lash out. So these are the things that you come into more detail with when you start doing shadow work, right? These are the things that you start to uncover about yourself, and you understand why you respond a certain way, why you dislike certain things, where these other ideas come from, where, let's say, all girls who have tongue rings, are the nasty girls. So where does that idea come from? Well, some lady in the church said da 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 da. You get what I'm saying? Like, that may not have been a good example, but I just wanted to give y'all something to go out there. But this is what I put down because I like to keep my thoughts together a little bit. So you're less likely during shadow work, once you get through this process, you're less likely to ignore yourself. You'll provide yourself with a path to understand and explore your mental and emotional aspects, right? So you're going to be uncovering some of the repressed or hidden aspects of yourself. Sometimes this could be due to trauma, and ultimately the trauma piece, those traumatic emotional responses, you just want to make sure that you have the right team around you, the right tools in your possession to help you maneuver through those issues quite quickly. And then it will ultimately lead you to self-awareness, acceptance, and some more compassion. The more compassion and self-awareness you have for yourself, the more you're able to give to others. If you have not taken care of yourself first, then you are not going to be able to take care of others nowhere nearly what you think you're doing. It's just, you just might as well just throw the whole child in the trash. Just throw it away. And then some of the other things, when I was looking up shadow, it was just talking about, one, it says the Indo-European, it says it's the root word for darkness. Old English is called the screen or the shield from an attack. It's called an imitation or a copy. It was also looked at anything that was unreal, a foreshadow or a prefiguration. So when you have a shadow or a shade, you are ultimately creating a place of boundaries, or a place of hidden area, right? And well, like what I said before, in that unconscious mind, all things exist. And so we just want to open it up so we can understand what all is there and why it's there. And then start to reconstruct our conscious mind to be more in alignment with both the conscious, the unconscious, and the subconscious. I don't want to go too much further into a lot of this stuff, because these are supposed to be basics, and this is like 45 minutes, so I know this is too long. But anyway, it's not quite 45, but y'all know, round it up. But anyway, y'all, I'm so glad to come back to y'all. We're going to see how much I get done in the next couple of days for y'all. Because this voice right now, my nasals, you know what I'm saying, this sinus, it's a lot. But, all right, y'all. I love y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Love y'all.